So what I have for you today to help explain all this is this old warhorse right here. And of course, we want to make sure that it is not loaded. We've already sanitized all the training area. I just wanted to show you that little step as an example. Remove the magazine first, okay? Remove the magazine first always. Now, you may have to disengage the safety in order to function the slide to do that. It depends on the gun itself. In the case of this particular firearm, it locks the slide when the safety is on. So, when you do remove the magazine and you go to function the slide to check to see if there's ammunition in it, disengage the safety, keeping your finger off the trigger and always pointing it in a safe direction. You can open it. It should eject anything that's in there. And if not, then you can hold it back. If it's not a heavy spring, then you can look, or you can lock it back using the slide lock lever. Again, if it's one that you cannot reach, in the case of this old warhorse, my thumb cannot reach that lever. It cannot in my normal grip position. It's okay. I can use an empty magazine, place it back in, function the slide back, remove the magazine. The slide is now locked open. So let's talk about double action only. In the sense of that, a double action only firearm means that if it has an exposed hammer like this, every time you function the slide, it will go back to the down position. That is a double action only firearm. Double action meaning that if I pull the trigger with the safety off and the hammer down, double action means two things will occur. It will cock the hammer and release the hammer with one pull of the trigger. Now, if it's a double single, okay, a combined version, then what happens is when you fire the first round and the slide functions, the hammer will now stay back in the single action position. And then releasing the trigger and pulling it again will then release the hammer and fire the gun. And it will stay in that mode every time you fire it. Every time you fire it, it will go back to single action mode. Unless it has a decocking lever, in which case a lever on the side that you function to lower the hammer safely without using the trigger. That's the magic. The decocking lever does not require you to use the trigger. This gun does not have a decocking lever. It does not. It has a manual safety. A manual safety. The key to this is to put it in double action mode. You have to lower the hammer old school way. And it's much like the single action revolver. I will put my thumb in front of the hammer. I will take the safety off and I will pull the trigger. And that will release the hammer and I can get my finger off the trigger and then I can lower the hammer into the half cock notch on this particular firearm. It may go all the way down depending on the manufacturer of the gun. That's how I do it when there is no decocking lever. In this case, when the hammer is down, this firearm, you cannot engage the safety. It's designed to go in the holster, hammer down, safety off. And then it is functioned after it's drawn in the double action mode. It's like a 12-pound double action trigger. You're going to push pretty hard to try and make that go bang in the holster. Just remember, if you feel resistance when you're holstering any firearm, stop and investigate why it's not going easily into a proper fitting holster. In the case of a decocking lever, if it's in the full cock mode, there may not be a safety on it. It may be just a decocking lever, in which case you would function the decocking lever and the hammer will drop. No, it will not strike the firing pin. So that step is before you holster it, after you've loaded it, is you decock it. If you do not decock it, you are holstering a loaded and ready firearm that is in single action mode, which can be a relatively light trigger. That is dangerous. You must decock it if it's a double single and it has a decocking lever. Does that make sense? Makes perfectly good sense. The onus is on you to figure out how your gun works. Whether it's a double single like this warhorse, whereby it can be fired in the double action mode. It can be cocked in the single action mode and the safety applied, but note, it's not intended to go in the holster that way. If I had to, in an emergency, I would holster it that way carefully, but generally, this is how it would get holstered after it's loaded. If it's not being shot immediately, I would disengage the safety, put my thumb in front of the hammer, put my finger on the trigger, get my finger off the trigger, then lower the hammer to the half-cock position. This gun is now safe to put in the holster, just like this. You have a double single, and it doesn't have a manual safety of any kind, okay, then it must be decocked before you put it in the holster, if it's loaded and ready to go. Now, there are guns that have more than just that. There are some guns that have a safety that also functions as a decocking lever and can be used in either configuration. I can't name all the various firearms, makes and models that are out there and what their functions are, but the onus is on you to learn how your gun works and how to use it in accordance with its design. Lots of people get wrapped around the axle when they see someone with a 1911 and it's got the safety on and the hammer cocked back and they holster it. There are multiple built-in safeties in the 1911 design, and it is designed to be holstered with the hammer cocked and the safety on. For example, it has a grip safety that must be deactivated before the gun can be fired, even if the safety is off. There are other safeties built into other firearms too. The onus is on you to learn how your gun works and learn how to use it in regards to its design. Now, when it comes back to this one, we're just going to review the stages of the draw again. Here we go. So I have my target once again with the pencil line on it. I have my holster. Remember, the first step for me is I'm going to disengage the holster retention device. In this case, it's a flap. I'll hold it up. Then when it comes to practicing my dry training, I've got my body position set up because I've been rehearsing my natural body alignment. I go for first and final grip. First and final grip. That's stage one. Stage two, pull it straight up out of the holster. Keep your finger off the trigger. Stage three, parallel to the range floor. I'm going to put my finger on the safety, or my thumb on the safety, because if I have to disable it from this position, I can. Then as I go forward towards my target, I bring it up to my eye and line up the sights, and I'm going to dry fire the shot. Now, for those that have struggled of the disposition of the double action trigger, yes, this double action trigger is heavy. Okay, it is heavier than the single action trigger. I'm going to tell you this. Master the double action trigger. This is what I like about training with this gun, is I can pull this 12-pound trigger time and time again, and I will master doing that without the gun moving while I'm doing it. When it's time to shoot in the single action mode, okay, that's easy. It's a no-brainer. The challenge comes later on when you're learning to do the transitions. You will find that people in general think, okay, if I shoot it in the single action mode, I will get more accurate shots. Okay, it's not normal in the middle of a gunfight to take it out of the holster, okay, and then cock the hammer to get the single action. I've seen lots of people cheat for that. They think that's the best way to get first round on target. No. In the case of this firearm, this would be approached by training with the double action trigger every time I pull it out of the holster. That's how I would do it. And then when I get to the range, I would learn to manipulate the next shot as I advance my training on the single action trigger. First, you master the double action trigger. Don't be the coward. Don't cock that hammer every time. No, that's unnecessary. And if you just embrace the discipline, I'm telling you, one day you'll grow up and say, I wish I had a double action only gun. That's the truth. Once again, a quick review on how this would look coming out of the holster as things are a little smoother. All right, I'm going to put it back so I make sure it's in a condition to go in the holster. The hammer is down in the half-cock position. The safety is off. It will not go on. I can insert it safely into the holster. Okay, I'm not going to do the holster flap up. I'm going to hold it up, and it looks like this. This would be my standard draw. First and final grip out of the holster, out, push it out to the target, and as it lines up with my eye and the dot, I'm going to squeeze off the double action shot. It's that easy. Be brave. Learn to shoot the double action one. Be disciplined. Learn to shoot the double action trigger. And if that's all you got, even though you wanted to be Wyatte Earp, it's okay. You can still get the hat and the jacket. Hey, you can even get the spurs. You want to be Wyatte Earp? You can be Wyatte Earp with one of these too. You just got to be disciplined enough to train with it. And that's the end of this episode. And you all have a good day now.